on a cold dark night. Someone was killed beneath the town hall light. The people at the scene, they all agree that the slayer who ran looked a lot like me. And she walks these hills in a long black veil, visits my grave when the night winds wail. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. The judge said, son, what's your alibi? If you were somewhere else, then you won't have to die. I spoke not a word, although it meant my life, for I'd been in the arms of my best friend's wife. And she walked these hills in a long black veil, visits my grave when the night winds wail. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. The scaffold is high, eternity near. She stands in the crowd, but she sheds not a tear. But sometimes at night, when the cold wind blows in a long black veil, she cries over my bones. And she walks these hills in a long black veil, visits my grave when the night winds wail. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. Welcome to Out of the Blue, number 38. So, Long Black Veil. I'm going to use the song Long Black Veil to illustrate a point that the Neo-Swedenborgian defense brings up. So, because the question is, once you accept the Neo-Swedenborgian defense, well, before I make this point, I want to show the difference between objectivity and subjectivity, because all this hinges on this one point. So objectively, this is a 10-pound watermelon, and there is a power in taking an objective viewpoint, and science, the power of science is the power of objectivity. But we don't actually live, I mean, as individuals, objectively. We live subjectively. And I'll show you what that means. So see, this is a 10-pound watermelon. That's an objective fact. And it's not very heavy. That is a subjective opinion, right? So I'm saying it's not very heavy. And that's how it feels. It does not feel very heavy. Now, as I sit here with this watermelon in my hand, it's going to start feeling heavier and heavier. objectively is not changing. It's still only 10 pounds. It's still a 10-pound watermelon. See, it feels a little heavier now. And that is a subjective experience. So, long black veil, what does that have to do with... Whoa! Comparative religions fail number 2. Drop the watermelon. Anyway, long black veil. What does that have to do with Neo-Swedenborgianism? So the whole song starts, 10 years ago, right? And then the chorus, nobody knows but me. Well, so the guy singing, the voice of the song is a guy who died 10 years ago. He was hung for murder. He was wronged. And it also raises some questions like, what really happened in that song? Was the best friend's wife in on it? Did the best friend know that the guy was sleeping with his wife, so he went and dressed like him and murdered somebody to kind of catch him in a trap? But that's all like, when you sing these songs, I've sang that song a lot. I first heard that song in Inverness, Scotland, of all places. But you sing it and then you read into it different ways. That song can be read a lot of different ways. But my point is a Neo-Swedenborgianist reading of that song. Because when you accept the Neo-Swedenborgian defense that heaven and hell, for instance, are not objective realities outside of ourselves. They are subjective realities inside ourselves. So that's what's neo about Neo-Swedenborgianism, because Swedenborg presents his visions, presents his journeys as if he went to a real place. So he wrote a book called Heaven and Hell. And the Neo-Swedenborgianist can rename that book My Heaven and Hell. So Swedenborg traveled into his own psyche, and it was like heaven and hell. And so everybody has their own heaven and hell. And that I quoted from Skeptic Magazine, the problem of account incongruence. And it's just like everybody has their own fingerprint. So that article suggests that they're all different, therefore they're not real. Would be like saying everybody's fingerprint is different, therefore it's not real. No, therefore it's individual. My nose is different than your nose. That just means that it's individual. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So anyway, Neo-Swedenborgianism, the Neo-Swedenborgian defense says that we have within us this experience. So this experience is unique to us. So your heaven and hell, your afterlife, your NDE will be individual to you. You'll meet your grandma, or you'll meet somebody significant to you. You won't meet my grandma, right? But once you accept that, it raises all these other questions. And the big one, and the one that the long black veil suggests, is how long will this experience last? Because in the book I quoted yesterday, Michael Shermer's Why People Believe Weird Things, he quotes Susan Blackmore saying that this NDE experience will eventually end when the brain, runs out of oxygen completely. So objectively, let's say it lasts 30 seconds. Let's say the doctor and the nurse next to your bed does a stopwatch, and this entire experience, in an objective sense, is 30 seconds long. Well, the question that I do not have an answer to is, how long will it last in a subjective sense? Because people have these near-death experiences where they're unconscious for 2 minutes, and they come back and they said they traveled and it was 2 weeks. They went on some 2-week journey, very long. They did all these different things. Howard Storm, for instance, is one of these guys who had this elaborate journey. and there's a lot of them. So, Long Black Veil, he is singing about something 10 years ago. So, you and I have the potential for our own afterlife, individual to us. And there's no time reference because your eyes are closed. So the question is, how long is it going to last? Will you have 3 months, 4 months of this, 4 months in this afterlife? Will it be, or will it be 100 years? Since there's no time reference, since you're only in your head, and since your ego does not want to die, your ego wants to stay alive, it's all speculation at this point, how long it can last. Now, there's a book by Ernest Becker called The Denial of Death. And if you're wondering how the mechanism of this afterlife works, the denial of death suggests that human culture is developed to give us a sense of living after our life. But what the Neo-Swedenborgian reading of the denial of death, based on the fact that these people die and come back and say, I didn't die, they have been denied death. There's a population, there's all these people who think they're going to die, they're in the hospital, they die, their heart stops, and they come back and they said, I didn't die, I went somewhere else. So they were effectively, in a subjective way, denied death. Even suicides, you can read about near-death experiences and suicides where somebody wants to die, they shoot themselves. Maxim Gorky is a good instance of somebody who shot himself. Maxim Gorky bought a gun and shot himself in the chest. The bullet went in and out, and he didn't die. But anyway, he didn't have a near-death experience, but there's another near-death experience that I've read where the person wants to die, and then they wake up in somewhere else. They were denied death. So Ernest Becker speculates about civilization, but you can take the title, The Denial of Death, and turn it around and say that our civilization, our language, our operating system, the words that we think with, the conceptual symbolic universe that exists in our head via language, words, prevents us from dying, even if we want to die. Even if you want to die and you kill yourself, the linguistic framework, the symbolic you, so I say myself, and I think, or as somebody says, I got my feelings hurt. Well, where are your feelings? Not my finger, I didn't get my finger hurt, I got my feelings hurt. Well, when I say my feelings and me, that is a symbolic self. And when these people come back and they say they didn't die, it seems to suggest that this symbolic self isn't injured when our body is injured. And so that's all background. So now the forward-looking question is, well, how long can we expect it to last? Is it going to be a fleeting glimpse, a fleeting moment? Or will it be 30 seconds by the doctor's clock, but 30 years in your own subjective experience? See, that's the major point here, is that we do not live objectively. The objective scientific viewpoint is imaginary. So, and the actual way we live is subjective. And it can't be escaped. It's just a fact of life. So, that's a bit of a rambling one today. Let's look at some art. This guy was looking over my shoulder as I was singing this song. This is the grandfather of my paternal grandmother.